door, you may remove the handkerchief. I wish you success.
Left alone, Pierre continued to smile as before. The 5 minutes he spent with bandaged eyes seemed to him like an hour. His hands swelled and his legs trembled. What was going to happen to him seemed terrible, and he was still more afraid that he should show his fear. Twice he raised his hands to remove the handkerchief, inclined to remove it. He was filled with curiosity to know what was going to take place, what was going to be revealed to him. But above all, it was delightful for him to think that the moment had finally come when he...
And so Count Pierre Bazoukoy enters the Brotherhood of Freemasons. This scene from Tolstoy's War and Peace describes the complex emotions felt by millions of men all over the world as they stood blindfolded before the inner door of Freemasonry. What sort of institution could attract men from every social rank, race, religion? Where and when were the first links forged in this chain that has united men from all nations for over 3 centuries? Or longer?
No one knows for sure. But in 1849, an historian named Hallowell discovered in the British Museum an ancient manuscript, then called the Regius Poem. One passage translated from the original Middle English reads, "The craft came into England, as I now say, in the time of good King Athelstan's day." Now this would place Masonry in England somewhere about 926 AD.
So we've got millions of men from feudal England to pre-communist Russia to contemporary America, all undergoing the same rite of initiation in buildings emblazoned with the same mystic symbols. And all of this happening right under our noses. How'd they manage to keep this thing a secret? Those in the Masonic fraternity have another way of identifying themselves, by a certain type of handshake. This play reflects the spirit of those crusading warrior monks. Is there evidence linking them to those medieval artisans who so carefully guarded their trade secrets?
In all of history, there are only 2 organizations who have found their principal identification in the Temple of Solomon, and that's the Knights Templar and the Freemasons. Here is the Seal of Solomon, the seal that would have appeared on that mighty temple. And if you want to turn the literal Seal of Solomon into an allegory completely confusing to the outsider, it's only necessary to remove the horizontal bars, and suddenly we have the square and compasses.
The square and compass, in its current interlaced form, is not all that old. It only came to be recognized as a Masonic emblem near the end of the 18th century. Rather than being a direct link with Solomon's Temple, they were simply 2 very important working tools of an operative Mason.
Thus, all the work that Solomon made for the house of the Lord was finished. And so the Bible tells us that Solomon finished his temple. The pyramid found on the back of our $1 bill is in fact a Masonic symbol representing King Solomon's temple unfinished. Why this denial of biblical history? What work remains to be finished?
Much of Freemasonry's allegory and symbolism in the present day center around King Solomon's Temple. It is the link which binds our speculative craft to the operative Masons of long ago. Our speculative Masonry teaches us that every man is incomplete, an unfinished temple, and using symbolic tools, his task on earth is to finish the work. Symbolically, we see every Mason as a builder of his own spiritual temple.
While its origins may be argued, Masonry's emergence from secrecy is indisputable.
London, 1717. 4 Masonic lodges formed the first Grand Lodge of England. Masonry quickly spread, or was revealed throughout the world, attracting an impressive number of very famous men. According to the book 10,000 Famous Freemasons, the list includes such men as Danton, leader of the French Revolution; Giuseppe Garibaldi, hero of the revolution that united Italy; Juarez of the Mexican Revolution; Simón de Bolivar in South America; and in the territory that became the United States, George Washington, Mason. It does kindle an eerie feeling that perhaps the strings of history are being pulled by some invisible force. And thousands more. Scientists, artists, philosophers, clergy, all leaders in their fields, belong to this so-called secret society. The great German philosopher and poet Johann Goethe spoke these final words on his deathbed: "More light, more light." Goethe, a prominent Mason, knew well the Masonic significance of that phrase. Sadly, he implored for more light from a bedroom whose window overlooked a place of great darkness, a field where a century later many innocent men, women, and children would be imprisoned, murdered. Buchenwald. Genocide. That was the goal of the fanatical Nazi hatred. 6 million Jewish people tortured and killed by unspeakable methods. Another 6 million non-Jews met the same fate. Among both groups were men who, besides their religious or national origin, had yet another mark against them in the eyes of the Nazis: the so-called crime of being Freemasons. Despite the risk of torture and death, Masons continued to meet even in the prison camps. Here, for a brief period, was the true secret society whose very existence had to be kept secret. These meetings probably came closer to the reality of the ancient lodge meetings than any other Masonic functions of the past 2 centuries, especially because they met only for a specific purpose, as briefly as possible, and were motivated by mutual protection and assistance. Had their secrecy been broken, punishment for all would have come swiftly.